Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to those of you who are new here. So in today's video, I'm going to be working on another Project Life spread. This is from the year 2021, which is indicated by the fact that I'm using a 9x12 page protectors, and this is week 34. So for this week, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing some stamping. So I'm super excited to share that with you guys today. And that's why this video is just a little bit longer, because I decided to leave the majority of it in instead of skipping it. And I'm also going to be using Studio Calico's August, their monthly kit. This came out in August, and it definitely has a Western theme. And I've got to admit, I'm not huge on the Western theme, which is funny because I've always lived in the West, and I do love the history of the West. It's just not always my favorite icons. And so the thing that I love so much about a company like Studio Calico that's putting together a kit like this, that is, it definitely has a heavy theme to it. I love that they include stuff for the theme, and then they will include patterns maybe on the backside that aren't necessarily theme based. So even if Western is not a theme that you love, there's still going to be a plethora of cards that you're going to be able to use. Because let's face it, you're going to come across kits that you absolutely love that are going to be like your absolute favorite kits. And then there's going to be kits that you come across that aren't going to be your favorites, but you are going to be able to find uses for them. And that's what I love so much about this. And you can see as I'm going through the cards, I'm kind of putting the ones off to the side that I don't think that I will use with this spread, that I don't think would be very, would kind of go with the theme for this week. And then I'm kind of putting down in the center the ones that I might consider using for this week. Now, the ones I'm putting aside does not mean I don't necessarily like them. It just means that it's not really going to go with my idea for this week. So one of the things, like I said, that I want to do is I want to work on some stamping. So you can see that I'm bringing in these white cards, and I'm doing that right now because I'm trying to figure out where I want the filler cards to go, or where I want my photos to go. So I'm kind of letting those white cards help me, because I'm going to be stamping on those white cards. And what I want to do this week is I want to highlight everyone in the family, and I want to write a little bit about what is going on for each person. Now, I've done this in some past years, and I've really loved this. I've used chipboard or letter stickers to kind of put their initials on the top of the card, and then I will write the journaling below this. But I thought it would be so fun to use her Builder Alpha stamp, because I just thought it was such a fun stamp set, and I have not yet had a chance to use it. So I thought it would be perfect to use for this week. But I'm definitely jumping ahead. I just wanted you to know why I've got all of those white cards out there. They were definitely helping me figure out where I wanted the photos to go and where I wanted the other cards to go. And now I'm kind of working on the title card, and I'm bringing over these triangles. And the reason why I put extra and I stacked them up is because I wanted the today triangle to be a little bit thicker and kind of look like chipboard. So I thought it would be smart to stack it up like that. All right, so I'm just continuing to move a few things around. It's kind of interesting as I'm trying to figure out how to distribute all of the white cards so they are not all together. All right, so you can see that I'm just bringing over all of the supplies. I've got the stamps there. I've got the Misti, which I think is absolutely an amazing tool for stamping, and something that if you are interested in stamping at all, I would suggest that you invest in one of these. They've got several different sizes. They've got a 12x12. I think this one is kind of looks like a 6x8. And then there's also like a 4x6. So I cannot say enough about how much I love that tool, but you'll definitely see how awesome it is as I'm re-stamping ink, and how it's a no-brainer getting the stamps in the exact right place. All right, so the reason I was going through those triangles and the reason why I pulled over my layout again is because I'm trying to figure out the colors that I want to use. So I'm going to be completely honest with you and let you know that choosing colors is the hardest thing for me. I don't know what it is. Oftentimes I feel like it's hard for me to put together patterns, and I feel like it's often hard for me to put together colors. And so I almost feel like it's one of the things that keeps me from stamping more than I do, because I actually really love stamping, but the colors, for some reason, I have a really hard time choosing colors and choosing color combinations. And I don't really know why, because I understand color theory, but it's just hard for me. But one thing that I know pretty well is monochromatic. So I decided to do that with this layout. I decided to look at the colors that were pretty dominant in the photos and then in the cards and choose ones that would work for this layout. And I wanted to do a different color for everyone's name. And so you'll see as I walk through this, all the colors that I end up using. The colors that I'm using right now, I'm just kind of looking for my notes because I did write this down. I am using Canoe inks, not for all of them. Some of them are Gina K, but these are Canoe inks, and I used Morning Frost and Evening Gray. Now, this stamp right here, I end up re-stamping. I am going to finish it on screen, but I end up stamping it again just because I had to stamp it so many times, because there were so many flaws. And I actually realized, and you'll see this because I end up using that triangle like 4 more times, that there is a flaw in my stamp. There must have been a bubble or something like that, because there's this little flaw in my stamp, and you can kind of see in the upper right of the stamp, there's a white dot. Now pay attention, because you will see that every time I use that stamp. So I have actually reached out to the Alley team, and I know because it's a holiday weekend, I haven't heard back from them, but hopefully this is something that we can get fixed. Anyway, like I said, this lighter version, I actually used the Morning Frost and the Evening Gray. And the darker version, in case you want to know, I used the Evening Gray and the Moon Rock. So I did end up really liking the darker version as I go back and look at the editing, and kind of wish I had used that darker version. But I just don't think I like the Evening Gray, that I had to stamp it so much. So I kind of wish I had done it again with the Evening Gray and the Morning Frost, or excuse me, the Moon Rock, just to see how that looked. But anyway, those are the colors that I used for that. Now I'm going to be moving on to my daughter and her husband, and I thought it would be fun to include them on one card. So I used a 4x6 card for this. And the inks I'm using on hers are Gina K, and these ones are Tomato Soup for the darker, kind of like an orangey. Well, you can see, oh gosh, it looks so bright on the video. It's the Tomato Soup is the darker, and then the Peach Bellini is the lighter. And I just think these colors are so beautiful, and they are so beautiful together. One thing that I wanted to point out when it comes to stamping with these dye inks, because they're really beautiful inks, but they do look kind of splotchy as they are first put down. And then as they kind of melt into the paper and the paper absorbs the ink, they do kind of lose that splotchiness and become smoother. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Now, some of them did have a few problems, but for the most part, they do really, really well. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. And you can see that in the final result. And definitely you can see that in the photos. So the colors that I'm using, I'm making a W here. These are also Gina K inks. This is the Prickly Pear, which I believe is what I'm putting down right now. And you can see that it's a pretty saturated ink. I think it's a really beautiful color. And there was definitely something on my stamp when I stamped it. So you can see there's like that big white mark. And I'm trying to put color in there. So what I ended up doing, so I didn't make the color too saturated, is I stamped it once and then I stamped with the second generation. That just means that I stamped a lot of the ink off. There was still some ink left on the stamp, but there wasn't enough ink to get rid of that white dot or that white I don't know, that kind of that mess that it created. And so I did it one more time. I ended up putting a little bit of ink down, and you saw that I was using my finger. And the reason I did that is just so there wouldn't be a hard line as I stamped it down. So anyway, as you can see, there's that white dot and it's in the exact right place. So you can tell that it is definitely a flaw in the stamp. So kind of bummed about that. The one that's a little bit lower on the W, that is just a mistake where something must have gotten away in the way of the ink. So that can happen from time to time. Just make sure you're really cleaning off your stamps before you are using them. So the blue that I am using is also from Gina K. This is in the navy. I think this is a really beautiful blue. And I tried to use this blue on everyone's. I didn't use it on Adam's card because his was all gray, but I think I tried to use these on all of the other cards just to kind of have one thing that kind of connected everything together. And I really love using navy as a neutral. I think that that works really well. And I didn't tell you what the other color was. The other color was honey mustard, the other color in the W, and it's also from Gina K. So anyways, just adding a plus sign here, and you can see as I'm as I'm re-stamping things down, if it didn't stamp even, just how easy it is to do with the Misti. It's like a no-brainer. Definitely something that you will want to invest in if you want to get into stamping. All right, so I'm moving on to G. So I decided to do G because I actually was just going to do another A for myself, but I decided to do a G just to differentiate itself. And so I decided to go with that. One thing I don't know if a lot of you know, because I've definitely had some friends ask me or be really surprised when they find out that my last name is actually not Gretchen. So I know that I have shared that in the past on my YouTube channel, but I primarily use Amy Gretchen online just for some anonymity. So anyway, just so you know, the G is actually my middle name. I do have some friends that call me G or AG, and so it just felt very fitting that I would use that here. And so anyway, I'm also, again, stamping in the navy, and I just realized I did not share with you the pinks that I use. These are also from Gina K, and it is Innocent Pink and Dusty Rose. So Innocent Pink was the lighter and Dusty Rose was the darker. And now I'm moving on to my daughter Megan or an M. And this one I used Altenew inks, and I used the Sea Glass is the lighter version. I believe it was Dusk. I think I did the darker. I think I did Dusk. Yeah, I think I can see it on my desk. I did the Dusk as the darker because the other, so if you're not aware, Altenew comes in sets of 4. You can kind of see that. So one color of blue has like 4 different versions, 4 different hues of that blue. And in between the Sea Glass and Dusk, it's called Ocean Waves, and it's a lot brighter. So I definitely didn't feel like I wanted to add a bright blue to this spread. So anyway, just adding the M, and with the M and the W, you can see that I just didn't have a lot of room to make those peaks larger, but it is what it is. I could have stamped off of the card, and now hindsight thinking about it, I probably should have done that, but it's not that big of a deal. All right, so you saw that I also stamped a circle in the navy, and then I'm working on the last one. Now, honestly, I wish this is something that I kind of want to redo, and I probably won't, but I was frustrated when I did it, and I just didn't redo it. But anyway, you'll see as I work through this, so I do the top, and then I do a little piece in the middle, and then I do the bottom. And I wish I had overlapped this little piece and then the bottom together. And that's one of the things that's super, super cool about this stamp set is this stamp set is made so that when you stamp 2 inks together, you can make a new color. Now, since I used monochromatic inks, it didn't really work that way because when you're putting pink on pink, you're just going to be getting a darker version of pink, right? But if you're going to be using a yellow and a red, you're definitely going to be mixing those two together if you're overlapping the stamp and getting an orange like I did with the G. So with this T, I wish I had overlapped that bottom piece and moved it up, because I think it just looks a little awkward. It looks a little out of place to me because the rest of the letters are the same height, and then the T is definitely larger. So you can see there, if I had just lifted up so that it overlapped with the blue color, it would have been exactly the same size as the other one. So anyways, honestly, it's not that big of a deal. It definitely would have given me more space to write some journaling, and it's something that I could easily go back and redo if I wanted to. Right now, I'm just letting it go. I'm not gonna worry about it. But I just wanted to let you know that I realized that is something that I feel like I made a mistake on. So this stamp is a really fun stamp. I think it is sold out now, but I believe that they are going to be reordering some. So definitely do the notification on Allie Edwards so you can find out when this stamp is coming back. And like I said, it is such a fun stamp set in terms of building together, mixing colors, and getting different colors. Like, I just can't say enough about how fun this is, and I'm looking forward to using it over and over and over again, because you can get so many different looks. I know that Laura had a email that went out that showed all, like, just a ton of different ways to use these stamps. And I've also seen other people using them as well. So a lot of creative ways to not only make letters, but also other shapes as well. So this is definitely one you're going to want to check out. All right, so I am working on my title card here. You can see that I ended up stacking those triangles just to make it thicker and more cardstock-like. And then instead of doing my traditional black, I ended up stamping in navy, which I thought was, would be a nice way of bringing that navy back into the spread. And then let's see, what else did I do there? Oh, and I just added one of the stars. I really love that grouping of stars. Like, I'm just a huge fan of tiny little embellishments like that you can use to just easily enhance something on your spread. So I would love some hearts like that. I think I actually might have some hearts like that, but I love the stars, and I really love the colors that they came in with the kit also. So now I just am adding some word phrase stickers to all of the photos. I end up missing one of the photos, the flowers in the bottom left, but I do go back and add some word phrase stickers to it, just 2 for each photo. I didn't want to add too much, but I really like the sentiments, and I just felt it added just a little something to the spread. And so that's why I did it. And now I'm going to work on my journaling. And like I said, I'm going to skip through all the journaling because I just do back to back. But it's basically me writing about what was going on for each person. Like, for instance, for Megan, I wrote about how she ended up breaking her foot, which is a serious bummer. She was super sad about it, but at least we found out she does not need surgery. So that is a huge blessing. When things don't go your way, it's really nice when you can get a little bit of good news. So that was really nice for her. So little updates like that about everyone and, what was going on for like this week specifically, but also generally, for my daughter Bella, I talked about how school was starting for her and, what her husband was up to and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm also adding, I felt like those letter cards really needed something extra. So I decided to add again those stars because I'm just really a big fan. I think I end up going back and changing a few because I didn't like the way some of the colors were looking in some of the placement. So I ended up changing some of them and making some of them a little bit more monochromatic, and that felt a little bit better to me. And then this last thing that I'm going to be doing is working on one more card. So I thought it'd be fun to use these stickers. I feel like I'm getting alpha stickers a lot and I'm not using them enough. So my goal is to use my stamps and use my stickers. So I started putting these down, and because they are like italicized, they're on an angle, I was trying to figure out like how they were supposed to go. And I was like, oh, this is definitely not looking right the way I put them down. So I pulled them back up, and you can see that I'm just laying, just starting to lay down the stickers. I like to start in the center and then move out, because that really helps me to get it, aligned. It's like the best way I know how to align the stickers, unless you're using like a ruler or something like that. So I just eyeballed that and did a decent job with it, and really love how that just pops and stands out and just kind of is like an extra title to this week, that this week is all about us, right? And what's going on for each of us, because technically every week is about us, right? But this is very specific to each person. So you can see that I'm switching out a few of those stars, and then I'm going to be done with this spread, you guys. This was so much fun to work on. And like I said, I've done a theme like this in the past where I've highlighted each person in the family. And I would definitely encourage you guys to do something like this, because it's just like I've said before, like Allie has said before, it's the sum of all the stories that you're sharing that make up, a complete picture of the year. So it's fun to be able to mix it up and do something a little bit different. Anyway, you guys, that is it for me. Thank you so much for being here. Always, always appreciate your support. Of course, if you are new, please feel free to subscribe and click that notification button so you'll know when a video goes live. And like always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section and I will make sure to get to them. Thank you so much, you guys, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.